Hello, everybody. Yep, it's me, it's me, it's me. Big gay Uncle Al. And it belongs to manifesting my goal of $100,000 or more each month. Clear from every level of my Hello, 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 everybody. It's Alan Davidson. Welcome. I'm so pleased that you're here, broadcasting live. It is showtime, and believe it or not, even I am on time. I appreciate your compassion and kindness and being here tonight. So, if you can hear my voice, please enter a little Y in the chat box, or if you care to share who you are and where you're listening from. This is Alan Davidson, and we are here in Houston, Texas. So welcome, everybody. So just let me know you can see my screen and you can hear me, and we'll be off and running in just a moment. Fabulous. So people are coming in and letting me know that yes, they can hear me. So fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, let's dive into it. Tonight, we're here for the presentation 4 Essential Universal Laws, how to live into your ultimate spiritual, emotional, physical, and financial freedom. And a special welcome to all of you enlightening people and enlightening entrepreneurs. It's my firm belief that we are in a major tipping point and critical mass point in the evolution of humanity, the evolution of consciousness. And it is the enlightening people of the world that are going to really help midwife a new reality for our world. And a special shout out to the enlightening entrepreneurs, the people who are running small businesses and running them as enlightening businesses and using enlightening marketing to reach your audience. I believe especially the enlightening entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to have a real impact in this tipping point of consciousness. So thank you. So I see we've got people from Houston, Charleston, Atlanta, New Zealand. Hello, hello. Derry, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine. Fabulous. So welcome, everybody. So today's training on the 4 Essential Universal Laws is for you if you are a lifetime learner, if you're passionate about your soul's evolution, if you're really ready to raise your frequency, become aware of who you really are, particularly if you're ready to heal the blocks to your spiritual connection, heal any blocks that allows you deep intimacy with any and all the relationships in your life. If you need to heal any blocks around your health, your body, or heal any blocks around doing work with meaning or aligning your soul purpose with the work that you do, or just multiple streams of income and financial freedom. if you're ready to take on the responsibility that comes with the awareness and power of the universal laws, and you're ready to have a maximum impact your soul wants you to have, you are in the right place. So I asked this question in a recent email, and I'm going to ask it to you here. It's a little pop quiz. Do you live in unshakable joy, awe, and wonder every moment of every day? And if you do, go ahead and enter Y in the text chat. Fabulous. And also, are you able to manifest your every intention with elegance, speed, and ease? And if you can do that, enter Y into the text chat. And it's a privilege to have you here, although it'll be a little redundant. You've already mastered working with these 4 essential universal laws. If you can do even that. Martha says, not even close. Well, welcome, Martha. So we're going to talk about how we do that. Also, today's training is for you if you feel like you're called to do something in this life, but there just seem to be obstacles or barriers or forces that keep you from really realizing that calling. That you feel stuck and you cannot break through to actualize your potential. You know you have a certain set of gifts and talents and skills, but you can't seem to put them together in a way that allows you to have the impact that you know you want. And I just imagine everyone that's listening, I know that I tend to attract and work with just some of the most extraordinary people that have amazing intelligence. Their heart is in an amazing place, and they definitely all achieve levels of success at some point in their life. But they feel like there is something that's blocking, that you're ready to take it to the next level, and there's something that just can't help you kind of shift gears there. That there are times when you have a spiritual awakening, a spiritual opening, that you feel connected to source, but that connection is inconsistent and it's confusing with all the practice that you've done and all the things you've studied and all the things you've learned, that you aren't able to have a more consistent connection to source. That for all the forgiveness work and all the healing work and all the cultivating unconditional love in your life, there are still people that you're not able to connect with, whether it's, one of your parents, your life partner, your spouse, your kids, someone in your family, your coworkers, that, perhaps you're like me and, you're disappointed or wish that, maybe your body were a little more malleable than it is, or you've reached a certain age and your joints start to creak. I'm one of those people that know enough about dieting and eating that I could write my own book, but I wouldn't dare because I'm not, shall we say, thin and glamorous as I used to be in the 1980s. Or you're disillusioned by, the dreams of financial abundance. It's so easy to open your inbox these days, and there's always somebody that's promising you, an easy way to manifest money or cash or do the work of your dreams. But you still have to get out there and do the work to manifest that. Well, I've said, several people have said the screen is out of focus, and what I can see here is crystal clear. Let me just check something. I'm just going to double check something here. Okay, that's the YouTube channel that this is broadcasting on, and it is crystal clear there. I think you can see that. So I'm not sure what's going on, reception there, but I just invite you to bear with us here. So thank you. Okay, so John from 1,000 Islands. I'm not sure where that is, John. Please. Okay, Sandra says it's clear now, so fabulous. So maybe that just shifted something. Okay, great. All right. So what I'm going to show you today, we're going to do a deep dive, and we're going to cover a lot of territory. And I just am trying to pack everything into this that I can, so that it will be helpful for you, that you'll have some knowledge and some information. And we're also going to do a healing and clearing at the end of this. So the 5 steps to transformation. The 4 essential universal laws you must embody for your ultimate spiritual freedom. How energy blocks in your spiritual anatomy keep you spinning in frustration, disappointment, and pain. How each of your 7 chakras holds specific vows or limiting, twisted, negative programming that impact the different areas of your life that you want to change. I'm going to show you a very simple light, sound, and symbol meditation at the end of our time together that will help to clear the priority energy blocks in the root chakra that are keeping you stuck. The 5 steps to clearing and activating your rainbow light body that allows you to live in total harmony with these 4 universal laws. And we're going to talk about how clearing and activating your spiritual anatomy actually fast tracks you to mastering your choices and your spiritual enlightenment. And then, as I said, we're going to do a healing and clearing at the end of it. Oh, hey. All right, John, I got it. Thank you. John from Canada. Fabulous. All right. So just a little bit about me. I started my spiritual awakening in 1977, actually, when I bought 2 books. One was The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and the other one was Illusions, a little book called Illusions. And I was a kid from central rural Texas, and for a long, long time, my world was Central Texas and pretty much fundamentalist Christianity. But I knew deep in my soul that there was more to the world than what I was being led to believe. And so in 1977, I bought that book, The Prophet, Richard Bach's book Illusions, and then quickly after that I bought Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And those 3 books together just opened my eyes to a whole different world of being. So if you've read either of those books, or they were somehow helpful to you, put that in the text chat. Or if there was a particular book that you sort of helped midwife you into your spiritual awakening, put that into the text chat for us. In 1988, I found myself in massage school, and I really started studying earnestly the way that the body and the soul are connected. And I started, my life officially and professionally as a healer. And I've been teaching meditation, movement, and spiritual clarity since 1990. So, Emily says a return to love in 1992. I'm going to date myself, Emily. I actually interviewed Marianne Williamson in 1992 when that book came out. So it was one of the highlights of my life. The Seth books by Jane Roberts. Denise says, and Angela says, Illusions, yes, many times. Beautiful. All right. So again, I have midwifed this weird evolutionary meditation called Enlightened Tapping. I'm on the Center of Integral Wisdom. I'm a sitting board, and I have the opportunity to work and collaborate with Ken Wilber, Barbara Marks Hubbard, John Gray, Jack Canfield, Michael Beckwith, Sally Kempton, who is just one of the most amazing teachers out of the yogic tradition. Sally wrote the wisdom column for Yoga Journal for years and years. I'm the author of Body Brilliance, the #1 health and wellness book, and won 2 National Book of the Year awards. I'm very successful in my business work, my primary source of income is my product launch strategy business, where I work with enlightening entrepreneurs who are wanting to launch programs on the internet. Usually they're home study courses, they're programs, coaching programs, things like that. And I've done over 65 launch strategies for some of the creme de la creme in the heart-centered and spiritual spaces. So, okay. Um, and as many of you know, the incredible success that I have now, it wasn't always that way, and it wasn't always that easy. I um, had a lot of internalized homophobia and shame, and um, just the experience of being a queer kid in Texas and trying to live was overwhelming to me. And one of the strategies that I tried to manage these sensations of shame, these emotions of shame, was IV drugs, methamphetamine. And I was an IV drug user for almost 8 years, and long time, long time. And I finally did get clean and sober. And very shortly after that, this was 1980. 87 when I got sober. And I had to decide if I was going to have a long life or a very short life, because we knew that HIV/AIDS was caused by a virus then. And I had shared syringes with men who had already died from AIDS, so I just assumed that I was positive. The miraculous thing is, when I first got my HIV test, it came back negative. And I was, and I still am HIV negative, even though I had played Russian roulette with my life. And I knew when I left the Montrose Clinic that day that the goddess, the universe, whatever you want to call the supreme universal laws, has something in store for me. And that was eventually to find my way out of addiction and to find my own connection to source and my own voice and begin to become a teacher. And so that's what's brought me here today. I have been sober for 26 years now, actually on March 1st. And I will tell you, body-centered meditation, actually becoming friends with those sensations that seemed so overwhelming and so scary and so overpowering a long time ago, has been the number one key to my success. And one of the exciting turn of events is that the ex-meth junkie drag queen bartender from Houston, Texas, who is now a best-selling author and spiritual meditation teacher, I've been invited to Harvard to speak on July 19th on the Enlightenment Revolution and the role entrepreneurs are going to play in this tipping point in consciousness. And then in October, I have been invited to West Point to speak on enlightening leadership. So pretty dramatic turn of events. So I'm living proof that if you really surrender and commit to a spiritual life, that extraordinary things can happen if I just get out of my way and let them. And that's really why I'm going to talk to you tonight, the universal laws that will help you do that. So I promise you 90 minutes of my very best. And I'm going to cram as many years of my wisdom into this as I possibly can. We'll do that healing and clearing, and then there'll be a question and answer. And then, with your permission, for those of you that might like to go deeper in this work with me, I'll invite you to do that. And then we'll wrap it up with more Q&A. So the 5 steps to any transformation. And I'm going to frame tonight's talk around these five steps here. One is to get clarity of vision. to know exactly what you want for yourself in your life. And part of that clarity of vision is to make it specific and measurable. Then, what is the strategy that you need to manifest that vision into three-dimensional reality? What are the skills that you need to implement that vision? What's the environment that you need to find yourself, i.e., whether it's a team or teachers or mentors or a community? Do you have a place in your home for regular meditation or practice? What are your dedicated practices? And then 5, mastering your mindset, mastering your choices, mastering your energy. There are different ways of talking about the same thing. But, those are the stages of transformation. And if you really will reverse engineer any of the changes that you've been through, you'll find that either one, it was a happy accident and you miraculously found yourself on the other end of a transformation, oftentimes kicking and screaming sometimes if you're like me. But you'll look that you went through basically some combination of these 5 steps to get there. So tonight, let's talk about and start with clarity of vision. And what is it that has brought you to this program tonight about 4 essential universal laws to manifest your ultimate freedom? And how do we make that specific and measurable? So I touched on this earlier, but we are living in the midst of what I call the Enlightenment Revolution. If you pay attention to the news, and I read the New York Times every day, I generally watch the news on television, and if you only believe what the Matrix is telling you, then it's easy to say, man, humanity and the world is going to hell in a handbasket and fast. But I believe that there is a shift in consciousness that's happening behind the scenes, under the scenes, around the scenes, that the Matrix just isn't talking about. That there are people that are doing extraordinary work to fulfill their soul's destiny in this world. And meditation is going through a revolution. Used to, you would sit on a cushion for an hour and wrestle with your monkey mind, and sometimes you would meditate, and sometimes you would just think. And we now have technologies that allow us in a few minutes to move from sitting on a cushion to actually being in a full-blown enlightened state. Beautiful. Now, enlightenment itself is going through a revolution. In the classic days of India and China and Japan and all the areas where they had meditation monasteries, you would go, and the ultimate goal was an enlightened state that was very impersonal. It's the self of the no self, absolutely peaceful, absolutely still, very beautiful. But it was that position of the world is just an illusion. The ego, the self, is just an illusion, and that's Maya. And that is an important stage of enlightenment, but it isn't actually the end goal. And we've seen in the last 360 years how enlightenment itself is now going through a revolution. And so there was that movement of disowning the body, disowning your life, disowning the ego. And now we're seeing that enlightenment itself is about coming back and actually entering back into the bones, back into your breath, back into your movement, and integrating those amazing enlightened states into your ego consciousness and really creating something new. So we're in the midst of that. And so the question is, and the enlightened tapping allows people in 20 minutes or even less to have a full-on enlightened experience. And yes, somebody just asked if there will be a replay. Absolutely, there'll be a recording made available of this for you. So, um, and part of this work that I do with the enlightened tapping is this working with the subpersonalities or the voices that we have. And there's the voices of the ego, the inner critic, the um, the skeptic, the controller, the protector, the seeker, seeking mind, grasping mind, avoiding mind, many, many different facets of the ego personality. But at a certain point, somebody asked, what about the enlightened voices that people have been writing about for 5,000 years? Are we able to access them? And the answer is absolutely. And so there's a part of you that's already always awake. And so it's one thing to be able to shift into them, enjoy the exquisite delight of stillness, or to rest in the unconditional love of the Divine Mother. But how do we make that real 24/7? And that's why these four essential universal laws are so important. So, I talk about embodying my most enlightening self. Are you embodying your most enlightening self? Living with universal laws, in alignment with universal laws, is the same thing. It is a truly enlightened, embodied person that knows how to surrender and skillfully use these universal laws in their life, and to maintain that beautiful state of presence and awareness and love and engaged attachment. And another way to say that is, I'm making my choices in line with my higher self. So, embodying your most enlightening self, living with the universal laws, or living and making all your choices in line with your higher self, they're all different ways of saying the same thing. So I'm going to give you a different perspective of how to look at embodying your enlightening self and how to use these different laws and really integrate them. And when you do that, you reach that place in your life where the odds really do seem always in your favor, and that you have an unfair advantage. And I know some of you very lovely spiritual types might think, oh, I don't want an unfair advantage. But the definition of unfair advantage that I love is to always, day by day, to be better than you were the day before. It is always having that commitment to a dedicated practice, like an Olympic athlete or an artist, to improve their skills and improve their presence in such a way that you're better than you were the day before. And that's what I mean by an unfair advantage. It's that commitment and that skill set to mastery that seems like, I love this old, this is an Irish prayer. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. It's just that sense of, the wind is blowing in your sails, and that the divine has her or his hand on your shoulder and is sort of guiding you in all the ways that you need to go. So, how many of you here feel like that you are in that place where you are embodying your most enlightened self, or that you are able to skillfully work with the universal laws, or that you feel like you are making your choices in line with your higher self? Or are you still feel like you get stuck with that same old separate self, and that you're still sort of stuck with that monkey mind just spinning and turning and turning, and find yourself way too often worrying about the state of the world or the state of your life or relationships? Or how many of you, feel like you do have something, some block, some barrier that keeps you from actually embodying and manifesting the life that you've been working on many times for years and years? Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Nicolene says, I feel I have a long way to go with just snippets of connection. Beautiful. It's so important to have those snippets of connection, Nicolene, to remember. John says, I can get there by choice, but I'm not there all the time. Excellent. And Ariel says, yes, but I forget. Yeah. And Sandy says, doing better now than I ever have. And Emily says, yeah, some blocks for sure. Well, and that's part of, oh, here's Denise, sometimes both. And yes, blocks. Love when I do create from a higher self. And welcome to your own journey of mastery, and welcome to your own, being in a body and having a life. And it is that beautiful place of remembering. Okay, so let's dive in to these four essential universal laws. And the first thing I'm going to say, if you do a search on the internet, you're going to see 7 universal laws. You'll see articles and books about the 12 universal laws, and you'll hear also about 21 universal laws. So which is it? And what I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to share with you 4 of the laws of what are known as the Classic 7, and they were put down by Hermes Trismegistus, who was a thinker somewhere between 250 BC and 200 AD. They're not completely clear when he lived and when his teachings were actually put down into writing. He was a teacher who was very immersed in the wisdom of the Egyptians and the Greeks, and he really synthesized that wisdom. And it's often called Hermetic wisdom now. So we're going to look at 4 of the laws that not only Hermes talked about, but you find them also in the ancient texts of India, and you find references to these laws in the Chinese texts as well. The I Ching makes reference to these laws. And so here's something that's important to begin to understand. We talked about the separate self or the ego self, and truth is always subjective and too often personal. But the universal laws operate 24/7, and they operate often beyond time and space, beyond the universe itself. And so it's important to understand when I am interpreting, which is truth, and when I am actually experiencing the flow of universal law. And that's where being in your enlightened self. Okay, so here are the 4 laws that we're going to dive into tonight. The first one is the law of karma, which is another way of saying the law of cause and effect. There's the law of mind, the law of love, and the law of will. And so how do you understand them and begin to work with them and align yourself with them so that you can live the life that you want? Now, my experience, having come out of the 12-step world, there was something that I would sometimes hear in a 12-step meeting. It's like, you can do it God's way, or you can do it God's way. And the essence of that was that these universal laws are going to play out, and they're going to take me and put me where they want me. And so I can do that kicking and screaming, or I can surrender to that and get out of my own way and step out of my defenses and step out of the way of my own internal blocks as best I can and align myself with these universal laws. So, if you are in a place in your life where you are feeling some sort of contraction, some sort of resistance, where you are in battle in some way, if you're in defense in some way, then that is the first signature that you are not surrendering and skillfully working with these universal laws. So that's, you're going to hear me talk about sensation often. If you get one thing from this program this evening, it is the value of the sensations of your body and your ability to connect with the raw sensations of your body. And to understand and realize when you are in a contraction as opposed to a place of openness, that will guide you so much. It will guide you so much. We'll talk more about that a little later. So let's dive into the first law, karma. It's the law of cause and effect. And the important thing to know, most people think in terms of, what goes around comes around, and payback is a bitch. It was an old disco song that we used to dance to. But most people think in terms of their personal karma. And the law of cause and effect does dictate your experience. But it's also important to realize it's the law of cause and effect that operates throughout the entire universe. It's the law that gives birth to entire universes. It's the law that keeps galaxies spinning. It's the law that gives birth to stars and allow planets to move. And it really is that sense of, and here is Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, what most people don't realize is that Newton was a huge student of the Hermetic laws of the universe. But what he was able to do is to take a truism like the law of cause and effect and actually create the equations within what was emerging as physics then, mathematics then, to create Newtonian concepts. But he was able to articulate mathematically this law of the universe. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. That's true at the level of the universe, at the level of the galaxies, at the level of solar systems, at the level of the earth, at the level of our physical bodies. There's a stimulus and a response, an action and a reaction. And that is also then true within our emotions and our thoughts and our actions. So it's important to realize it's hard for us as human beings to think in terms of, if I have an emotional response or if I have a mental response, that there's a cause and effect. Because sometimes there's a lag time in the law of karma. And so when we get our payback, it's like it doesn't feel necessarily that it was a response to a stimulus that you made in relation to it. So I'll tell you, on Sunday night, I went to the gym and my truck was broken into. They broke out a window and they went through the console and the glove box, and they didn't take anything at all of value. I don't carry anything of value in my truck. I did have a bank bag that had a little wallet in it that had my Costco card and my Sam's card and gift certificates and things like that I had. So, nothing of real value. So what did I do that warranted my truck to get broken into? Well, there's a lag time. So I don't know the answer to that because the space between the stimulus and the response was so long. But what I do know is how I react and respond to that dictates the next cause and effect impulse. And so, I actually remained very calm, very serene, very peaceful. It's like, okay, so no big deal. I went yesterday morning, got a new window put in, $180, big deal. So we all have experiences like that. So Denise just asked this, is this why positive will come in equal measure to the negative that we suffer? So if you respond to a stimulus with a wise choice, and a choice that is in line with your higher self, then yes, you are accruing good karma. But you also have to burn off a lot of old choices that were not in line with your higher self. And so let's just talk a little bit about that. So one of the things that it's important to realize, and this is a graphic of your spiritual anatomy. There's the physical body itself with the bones and the muscles and the connective tissues and your organs, the fluids of your body, the nervous system in your brain, the actual gases that move through your body. And then you move to the subtlest level of your anatomy, and that's the spiritual anatomy, and that's often called your meridians or your chakras and your auric field. And so there's this very subtle layer of energy that surrounds you. And so when you make a choice, and that choice is not in line with your soul purpose and universal laws and your higher self, then you actually are contracting your consciousness, and you're sticking and holding on to that experience at some level in your being. You first will sense it very subtly in the energy level, but ultimately it will impact your physical body. And so as you begin to clear and make choices in line with the universal law and your higher self, then you actually, it's called walking your karma. It's like you're actually spinning off and releasing, and life will bring you circumstances that allow you to respond at greater and greater levels of presence and awareness and compassion and kindness. And the more you develop that skill, the more you clear energetically. That's it in a nutshell. But it's important to realize if you're making choices that are not in line with your higher self, then you're actually adding contractions at the energetic, subtle level of your being. So here is another way to look at the 7 embodied chakras. The first 3 chakras, the root, the hara, and then the solar plexus right there underneath the rib cage, the first 3, that's the body. That's your incarnate self, that's your ego self. The 4th chakra, the green, is at the heart. The 5th chakra is at the throat. The 3rd eye right there between the eyebrows, that's the soul level. And then the 7th chakra, and then the 8th and 9th chakra are not pictured here. That's the oversoul. And that's really where the connection becomes very, very subtle, very, very thin. And that's at the level where you really are connected to every other conscious being on the planet. So coming back to the first 3 chakras, that's the subtle energy level of the ego. And most of the world, 70% of the world, are still stuck at this lower level of a consciousness. They're not able to move up into their heart. They're not really able to move into a place of unconditional love and connection at the heart center to other beings. And if you look at the gap, that jump between the 6th chakra and the 7th chakra, as best as we can gauge, and there are ways to actually measure the energetic level and the developmental level of people, there's only about 3 to 4% of the world's population that is actually able to move completely into that 7th chakra and that's what we call real enlightenment, moving from the soul to the over soul level of connection. So this is a really important. We're going to come back and visit this. So most people in the world, and when we are in defense, we're entertaining our character defects. We're operating from the first, second, or third chakra. We're in the matrix ourselves, and we are not making choices in line with our higher self. When we're able to shift up into the heart, the throat, or the third eye, and begin to make choices from this higher place, the higher self, then we transcend the incarnate, the body, the ego. So the higher self, one easy definition of it is that aspect of our consciousness that is the fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh consciousness and above. So that's just one way of saying making choices in line with your higher self. It's those energy centers in your body there. So important to realize when you're creating karma for yourself, when you make choices that are out of alignment with your soul purpose or your higher self. And this is where it gets interesting. For every karmic choice, there must be a balancing effect. The universe does not forget. Karma does not forget. So you have to balance and bring into alignment all the choices that have been made in this life that weren't in line with these universal laws, or your most enlightened self, or your higher self. And here's another way to look at it. The karmic imprints are frozen light that gets stuck in the energy grid of the body. And this is a quote, I've got a couple quotes here from Michael Singer. The seeds of past actions, the causes which have not yet fully satisfied the law of cause and effect by generating the necessary equitable and compensating effects, are called sanskaras, or karmic imprints. So what he's saying here is that you're going to have imprints in your light body. You're going to have contractions in your light body until you create the equitable and compensating effect to release it and allow it. Now I'm going to share with you in a few minutes, there's a way to fast track that. And I mentioned that lag that before between stimulus and response in karma. The strongest karmic patterns always will take preeminence, and the currently sown seeds will have to wait their round to be worked out. So that's why I have no idea why my truck was broken into the other night, because I was working out other karmic patterns and sanskaras that were more important. And so whatever choices I made out of alignment with myself that inspired being broken into like that, it was a long time ago. So it's not clear to me at this point what it was. But it's also clear to me that, we sow, we will reap. So how many of you feel like you have a grasp, you have a connection to your higher self, to your soul purpose, to your most enlightened self, that you can, when you make your choices, that you have a sense that you're doing it in service to your highest good, to the highest universal good? Or do you feel like you're just sort of out there winging it, doing the best you can and trying to figure it out from your monkey mind? I know it's so easy. The monkey mind is such a siren, and it's so easy to get seduced to, oh, how do I figure this out? How do I work this out? When ultimately, I know that the ego mind, the mind of the separate self, is never going to figure it out, and is never able to make my choices in line with my separate self. So so that's what I want to talk about. The main thing about the law of karma to understand that it's universal, it's galactic, it's solar, it's earth. It is one of the primary forces of nature on the earth that we live in, but it also regulates human experience, and that our thoughts and our emotions and our choices also are subject to the law of karma. And that those choices that are not in line with our higher self get stuck in our energy bodies, and that we have to work that out through our lifetimes. Okay. All right. So this is actually one of my favorite laws. And it's very simple. In the Hermetic tradition, this is called the law of mentalism. Simplified, is the law of mind. All is mind, mind is all. All is consciousness, consciousness is all. And it is that sense that everything is mind, that there is a field of consciousness, and that all things arise within that field. And we're going to play with that in a minute. But for those of you who have actually had an enlightened experience, and to be able to shift into some state of stillness, infinity, emptiness, that state of mind, in the Bible is that peace above all understanding, beyond all understanding. It is that exquisite stillness. When you're able to shift out of your separate self into that infinite, empty, eternal spaciousness of consciousness itself, you're tapping into the law of mind. So there are three things that it is important to understand. The ego self, the mind that lives within the matrix, the mind of the separate self, it projects everything. Your mind is like a projector. You're internalizing all of this information and this data, and you're projecting a template of reality onto this field of consciousness. And that's all, a lot of that's formed unconsciously from when we're babies and we're children, and as we just soak up the world, and we soak up the paradigm of our primary caretakers, our parents, and we soak up their beliefs and their impressions about the world itself. And we, as little human beings, then begin to project those beliefs, those filters, and that reality onto consciousness. And then the next thing that we do is we project this reality, and then we actually attach to it. It's like, oh, this is my reality, and I'm right, and you're wrong. And if you look at a lot of the conflict in our relationships, it's people arguing around their version of reality. And once again, they're all imagined. They're all limited in their perspective. And then after we attach to that reality that we project onto the world, then we start deciding that we either like it and we want more of it, or we don't like it and we need to avoid it. We're either avoiding it or grasping it. And so there's this internal quality of the mind where we judge it. Beautiful, beautiful. There are wonderful comments coming through here, so thank you, everybody. Martha says, consciousness creates form. There are no exceptions. Going back to connecting and making choices with the higher self. John says, I do, sometimes winging it. Often I act with intuition and just know that it's good. Beautiful. Nicolene says, I've been connecting more and more recently, and there is a significant difference to my inner state when I'm coming from my divinity instead of what I think I should be doing. Beautiful. Beautiful. And Sandy says, making great strides these past few months. Beautiful. Ariel is when I'm trying to figure it out, I know I'm on the wrong track. That's right. When the mind is spinning and grasping, Ariel, that's a good signal. And you're sophisticated enough to know, and you can feel those thoughts contracting. When you really have a meditative practice, you start to realize that even the thought has a sensation, and that thought can have a sensation of contraction or openness. Okay, so coming back to the law of mind. And so part of what we do in meditation and the enlightenment practices, we go from the mind of the separate self and we go to no mind, which is that exquisite stillness, expansive. People often talk about that feeling oneness with the universe or even transcending the universe itself. And that's that first, moving out of those lower three chakras and into particularly like the sixth and the seventh, really expanding into that no mind. It's a very, very spacious no mind place. So this is my particular map of working with the different voices, the voices of the separate self in that lower left corner, the voices of the no self, all those enlightened voices of stillness of pure being, the divine father, the divine mother, very impersonal, very expansive, very cosmic. And then you move to the peak of the pyramid, the unique self, and that's where you begin to embody all aspects, the impersonal, and then the separate self as well, the ego itself, and you bring them together. I'm actually going to go back here. And there are two very important skills from this state of awareness. As you begin to move more into no mind, there's the witness state of consciousness, and that's that part of you that is aware and awake and alert, and that is just really watching. You really are witnessing the rising and the falling of every moment. And then as you move into full-on enlightenment, you really move to that place of, I am beyond even the galaxy, I am beyond the universe, I am actually into emptiness itself. And that is that non-dual absorption into nothingness and emptiness. And from that nothingness and emptiness then arises universes, arises reality, and it all falls away. So the gift of the law of mind is that we as human beings develop the skill of the witness, and we develop the skill of no mind, of being completely comfortable with emptiness. The other quality the Divine Mother brings us is this infinite state of unconditional love. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But at this very expansive level. And so then as we bring that back into our everyday lives, into our bones and our breath and our gestures and our choices, we're informed by that part of us that is the eternal witness and that is connected to emptiness and infinity at all times. And the entire psyche has to rearrange itself when that happens. So again, looking at the law of mind from the 7 chakras, the first 3 it's a very selfish perspective. And there is very little awareness that happens. As you shift into the heart center, And particularly as you move into the throat and the third eye for the law of mind, then you develop those skills of the witness. And then as you move into the seventh chakra, is that state of emptiness and nothingness. And it's absolutely essential that we develop this awareness to begin to live with and in line with the universal laws. So you can see how the chakras themselves are a map of where we are in our development and what are the different skills that we're bringing into our enlightenment and our everyday self. So, I mean, how many of you have really had a meditation practice here? How many of you have had this experience of um, of being the witness, or being into emptiness and nothingness and the stillness of pure being? How many of you actually had that? And how many of you have really longed for the ability to embody that and wish it wasn't just a fleeting vacation from the monkey mind, and then something happens in your life and you feel yourself sucked back into that? Go ahead and enter something into the chat box about your experience around the law of mind. All right. So now, moving into the four essential universal laws and the law of love. And the law of love, now in the Hermetic world, they call it the law of correspondence. But the law of love states, as within, so without. Whatever is in my heart is what I am creating in all the created universes. Or another way to say that, as above, so below. As in heaven, so in my world. So, Emily says, yes, I would love to embody this state of mind regularly. Beautiful. Sandy says, it has made such a difference in my life. That and the tapping. Ariel says, yes, yes, and yes. Nicolene says, I long for all the time and then fall back into not practicing my meditation. Yeah, welcome to being human. Molly says, it is the best moment of life. It's definitely one of my favorite places to be, Molly. And John says, meditation practice, excellent at times and inconsistent in others. I'm blocked as to why this disconnect. Well, and we're going to talk about what blocks us from experiencing these laws all the time. Because to be honest with you, after 40 years of doing this work, intention will only take you so far. And it is the blocks in the subtle anatomy that keep us from being able to embody these amazing states. So the law of love, the law of unconditional love, it is that sense of harmony and unity. Now, many of us don't experience that. If we're living in the lower three chakras, if we're in the matrix, we don't stop to think that, oh, the war that I'm experiencing in my own interior life, the split between body and mind, the split between heart and mind, the split between right and left, the split that I feel between me and you, that war that's going on within me is going to be reflected in the world that I see and experience outside of myself. But as I develop the skills of self-love and love for others in my family, in my tribe, in my world, in my communities, and I begin to come into harmony body and mind, harmony, heart and mind, harmony, right and left, harmony within, harmony without, then I begin to experience greater levels of love. That's the law of love. And so, again, looking at it from the perspective of the chakras, the first three chakras, I like to sum up with that old song from Janet Jackson, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" It's from a very selfish perspective. And I think in terms of relationships that are at this level, they really are business. It's like, I will give you attention if you give me protection. I will give you affection if you give me safety and security. It really is about tit for tat. As you shift into the heart, you shift from a selfish perspective, a manipulative business, love as business, to that heart center. You begin to shift to a place of care, where you start to genuinely care for yourself, care for the other people in your life, care for the animals, the planet itself, the resources of the planet, and making sure that all the people on the planet have those resources. And then when you actually shift from the sixth chakra into the level of the oversoul, then you really start to think about what is the good for every conscious being in every level of the universe. And it's a whole different, it's cosmic care. So you move from selfish to care to cosmic care. And those are greater and greater stages of experiencing love and connection and intimacy with yourself and with all of life around you. Now, I want to compare that to the law of mind. The law of mind is awareness, it's emptiness, it's nothingness, it's presence. The law of love is that rich, it can be just as impersonal and expansive and universal, but there's still an engaged, connected quality to it. So that's why you need both the yin and the yang qualities of enlightenment. You need the awareness and emptiness, which is what Buddhist enlightenment is very much about. And then you also want that divine mother. You want that unconditional love. And that's very much for followers of the divine mother in the yogic tradition, and the bodhisattva in certain sects of Buddhism talk about that feminine, the Kuan Yin quality of enlightenment. So having those together are essential. So how many of you have in your life had that experience of that shift out of a selfishness into a place of self-love and a deeper level of intimacy in your relationships? And then how many of you are still aware that in your relationships, there are people that you might have divorced, or that you just don't speak to anymore, or it's just too much trouble, or it's too painful to deal with them, whether it's exes, it could be parents, it could be brothers and sisters, it could be ex-co-workers, ex-friends, but it's just not worth the grief that you have for them. So you're not able to shift into that place of divine love and really have that for yourself. And now we're moving into the final law that we're going to discuss about, and that's the law of will, or the law of free will. And it is the capacity to make a choice. The consequences of your choices. The law of will is absolutely about the consequences of your choices and the impact that has on the law of karma and cause and effect. So first, I just want to talk about a lot of my work is based on our human experiences, which is the 5 intelligences: physical, emotional, mental, moral, and spiritual. And that's what my book, Body Brilliance, really moved forward, was that we have these 5 vital intelligences. And the physical is our bones and breath. It is that sense of lose your mind and come to your senses, the raw sensations. And let me just go over, some of those sensations here. Pressure, temperature, or vibration. So that's a tightness, an openness, a heaviness, a lightness, a contraction, an expansion. There can be a sense of vibration, that movement, a throbbing, a pulsing, a vibrating. Temperature is warm or hot, cool or cold, and then sensations of pain. So connecting to the actual sensations in your body pulls you out of your imagination, out of your matrix mind. And another way to think about physical IQ is to be fit, to be useful, to be of service to your life in the world. Emotional intelligence is all about our capacity to love one another. It's basically the essence of Christ consciousness. Mental intelligence is free your mind. Free yourself of the projections, free yourself of your attachments, free yourself of avoiding and grasping, and allow yourself to connect to that infinite, empty, eternal quality of consciousness, and then bring that back into your bones. Moral intelligence is about choosing wisely, doing what needs to be done in line with your higher self. And, in the yogic traditions, they talk about this moral intelligence. It's really the capacity of discernment, the quality of discernment, to understand that when I make a choice, it has the potential to have this action, reaction, this impact. And then we make those choices. And then spiritual intelligence is really about freeing your chi. It is about clearing all the blocks in the spiritual anatomy and then allowing yourself to, to activate the energies in your body. We have many, many dormant energies. Most of us are operating at 20, maybe 30% of our potential energy and our maximum chi. And the Taoist Chinese masters have been talking about that for thousands of years. And if you watch what some of the Chinese, the martial arts masters or the Tai Chi or Qigong masters, healing masters can do, it's just absolutely amazing. And that's the promise for you, for all of us in our lives. So when I am making choices, using this map of the chakras again, when I'm making choices that are in line with my ego self, I am definitely not making choices that's from a very selfish perspective, and they are not in alignment with my higher self. As I shift into my soul level, my higher self, then I begin to connect, and I'm making choices from a place of connection and compassion and care for myself and the lives around me. And then as you moved into that 7th chakra, there is that I'm making choices from my highest level of awareness. So when I'm making those choices, it's important to realize that, one, it impacts the spiritual anatomy, the embodied chakras themselves, but also if I'm making choices that are out of alignment with my higher self, there's a price that I pay at the mental level, at the emotional level, and the physical level. And so if you start to look at people's posture, you begin to understand that the choices that we make, the habitual ways we move our body day in and day out, the habitual ways we think, the habitual ways we feel, the habitual ways we move, all are stemming from the actual choices that we make moment to moment, and the way that our spiritual anatomy is allowing energy to move through our entire energetic grid. So choices have consequences, and we live with them day in and day out. And most of those consequences are unconscious for most of the people in the world. So, beginning to work with the law of free will and the understanding of your choices and making conscious choices. There was a study done at Duke University, and they were looking at the choices that a person makes in a day during while they're awake. And they determine that as much as 60% of the choices that are made in a day are made unconsciously. Now, that includes tying your shoelaces, getting in the car and driving to work. There are certain things that you do want to be automatic, that you don't want to have to consciously think about. But how many of those choices in a day deserve consciousness and deserve to be evaluated and deserve to decide if they are in line with your highest universal healing and wholeness or not? So one, we talked about the 5 steps to any transformation: clarity of vision, and embody your most enlightening self, living in harmony with the universal laws and in line with the higher self. So, for the purposes of this work, this is my life vision, is to be able to do this. And then what is the strategy to manifest the vision? What are the actual steps to embody this most enlightening self? Well, the strategy that I use are the 4 stages to spiritual clarity. The first is to repair and activate the spiritual anatomy, the auric field, to repair any tears, funnels, portals, clear any attachments, to clear any priority karmic blocks, to clear any vows, limiting programs that are stored in the energetic body, to clear any crystal seals that block the flow of anatomy, of the spiritual anatomy, and to actually activate those energies once they've been opened up. And then finally is to master my choices. So that's a lot. So again, the strategy to embody these states of enlightenment, to live in harmony with these universal laws, is to repair the spiritual anatomy at the basic level, to clear all the priority karmic blocks that are stored in the body, to clear any crystalline or frozen light seals that block the flow of energy, to actually activate all the dormant energies that are in the body and consciousness. And then from that empowered, divinely powered place is to really master choices mentally, emotionally, and physically in the world. And then the next step is how to up-level the skills needed to embody this enlightening self. And so, what are the skills that are needed? And one, I'll tell you, it gets a lot easier clearing a lot of the debris out of the spiritual anatomy. It's those crystalline programs, that twisted energy patterns that are stored there, that keep a lot of the subpersonality, the voices of defense and fear and contraction, stuck not only in our energy bodies, but in our everyday life, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So one, what are the skills that I need to do? So clear the energy body, that's an amazing gift. But then I need to develop the skill sets of allowing wiser and wiser choices, to be able to sit with a stimulus, a circumstance that arises in my life, and then how I choose to respond to it. And what are the skills that help me do that more and more wisely? So, is that to be able to sit in stillness, for 30 minutes at a time? Is it a particular tapping practice that's helping me clear old emotions from the physical body and the energy field and the nervous system? What are the practices that you use and you need to help you to embody this enlightening self and live with these laws? And again, coming back to those karmic choices, and it's important to realize, unfortunately, that we are responsible for the state of our energy anatomy and our lives. And we have done that by making choices that were not in line with our higher self. So again, one way is to clear it is to walk your karma and just allow life and circumstances to bring you situations where you have an opportunity to clear, to forgive, to open, to relax, to be present to. And again, that's where classic meditation practice is so helpful. But there's also a way to fast track this. You don't have to wait for life just to bring you circumstances. There's a price that we pay, particularly at the arc level, when there are tears in our spiritual anatomy, when there are portals, there are funnels where energy is being directed, where there are holes, actually in the auric field itself, where there are negative programs, vows that are stored, that are blocking the healthy flow of energy. There's a price that we pay energetically, and we pay it physically, emotionally, mentally as well. So I want to talk about the vows, the twisted negative programs that can be stored at each of the 7 levels of awareness, of the light body, the spiritual anatomy here. So, and we all have different experiences. You notice I haven't really talked a lot about past lives. If you believe in reincarnation and the transmigration of souls, then certainly they teach you that your soul comes in with certain karmic imprints from previous lives. My experience is I've got enough from this life to work on and clear. And if I've got stuff from past lives and it gets cleared, fabulous. But I'm just focusing on my light body being as clear as it can possibly be. I don't get attached to, is it an imprint? Is it a block from this life or a past life? It doesn't much matter to me. What matters is that it's blocking my experience today. And so how do I clear it as elegantly and effectively as possible? But here are the programs that get stuck in each of these embodied 7 chakras. The root chakra is all of our issues around survival. And at some level, we all fear of being overwhelmed or being hurt or being wounded. If you've had an experience of being bullied or abused or overwhelmed, those are all stored in your root chakra. And then our fears about death and dying are also there. So there's a lot of imprints just from this life in that very root chakra there. The second chakra is about sex and intimacy. Any traumas around pain and suffering are stored in the second chakra. Also, the second chakra is about power and money and sex and how they come and integrate together. The third chakra, any issues around self-esteem or a lack of valuing yourself. I mean, how many of you, there's a wonderful phrase of throwing your pearls before swine, which means, in a way, I didn't value myself. I remember when, after I got clean and sober, and I had to learn how to date again. And I knew that even though I was feeling pretty wounded, that I was still a damn good catch, and I had a lot of talents and skills to bring to a relationship. But I went through a long period of throwing my pearls before swine. because I didn't value myself. How many of you have had that experience of not valuing your own self in some way? And, whether it's at work with an abusive boss, whether it's you not speaking up in your truth, whether it's in a relationship or dating, maybe it's even, with your family, that you bring a unique gift and value to this world and to this life, and yet you let other people eclipse that, and you make choices that don't reflect and respect your full value. Issues around power and dominance and control, those are all there in the third chakra. The fourth chakra are all issues around heartbreak and disappointment in relationships. Any issues or lack of self-love or lack of unconditional love for friends, family, community, tribe, animals, the world. Those are all stored there in the heart center. Then the issues in the fifth chakra, anything with issues around withholding the truth, lying, deceit, manipulation. And the withholding the truth is a more profound way of lying in our country and our culture than outright lying. Most people tend to think they're fairly honest, but when you start to think, I'm not speaking my truth. I'm not speaking my truth with love. I'm not speaking my truth with power. I'm withholding it. I'm withholding my opinion. Then you know that there are issues that are being stored in the throat chakra. The sixth chakra, confusion of purpose, not knowing your life purpose, not knowing what your higher self is, not being able to make choices in alignment with your higher self. Any issues about belonging, of not belonging. Also obsession and insanity. And then the seventh chakra, any issues that you have about God or the divine or the cosmos. Particularly if you were raised in a religion where there's a punishing God or an unjust God, or you've had experiences like you've lost a parent, you've lost a child, you've lost a good friend, or you've experienced war, or like me, I experienced the AIDS epidemic, where literally 90% of the people in my life died. So I knew a lot of people that were angry at God during the AIDS epidemic. I know people that get angry at God because they don't understand. So if you've got issues around divine power, divine right order, divine justice, divine love, then those are stored in the seventh chakra. And those are all imprints that are stored. And if you're like me, I had multiple issues stored up and down the rainbow light body. So those are just a list of some of the vows, the twisted energy patterns that can get stored in these centers. And part of getting clear is about shaking off and clearing these negative patterns that are stored in the light body. Now, the fourth step of transformation is maximizing your environment for manifesting the world that you want to live in and the life that you want to have. And that involves the teachers or the mentors you choose to work with, the communities that you move in and out of, your own dedicated practices and rituals of success that you have. Is there a place in your home where where it is quiet and still and you can actually use your dedicated practices? If it's a movement practice, do you have a dance studio that you can go to, or a place at the gym that you can go to for your dedicated practices? What's the environment that you have in place that supports you in manifesting? Or if you're like many people in the world that are still living in the matrix, their daily environments are distractions to that. So, um, so it's time for the healing and the clearing that I talked about, and I'm going to introduce you to a sacred symbol in a minute. I'm going to show you how the higher self, the lower self communicates with words. The higher self communicates with symbol, light, and sound. So we're going to use a symbol and light and sound to do a clearing. And we're going to do a clearing on the root chakra. And we're going to work with the priority blocks at the root chakra. So in a few minutes, I'm hoping you'll have a sensory experience of the clearing that's possible and how simple it is to do it. So everybody, I invite you just to take a breath. And looking at this symbol, and just a few words about the symbol. The 3 concentric circles like that is actually a very sacred symbol. It represents the highest levels of consciousness, the highest coded of light. It is the light of 10,000 suns, and the quality of the Divine Father and the Divine Mother that have an impact on our human blueprints, our entire human experience. And then the C with the circle that's there actually is a symbol for clearing and protecting. So you're combining a level of clearing and protecting at the highest levels of consciousness that will then work at every level of your awareness, every level of your being. So just take a moment to look. So let's see. Okay, I'm seeing a symbol on the screen. Let me just come back here to this. Okay, there's a symbol there, John. So just hang out there. So just taking a look at the symbol. And now just taking a breath, and you can close your eyes if you want to. And you can imagine that sacred symbol now in your mind's eye if you like. And with a breath, imagine that sacred symbol moving down the vertical channel of your body into the earth itself and moving down to the very center of the earth, to the molten lava center of the earth, and allowing that clearing and protecting quality of the code to actually clear and protect the earth itself. Just as you have meridians, the earth herself have meridians of energy, and allowing this code to clear and protect the axial tonal line of the earth, and moving into that molten core, and allowing the actual fertility of the earth herself, the ability to transmute the elements of earth and water, fire, air, and ether into life itself, absorbing into this sacred symbol. And with a breath, moving that symbol up through the earth, up through the vertical channel of your body into your heart center, and just allowing that molten colors of red and orange and yellow, and the light of the earth herself to fill your heart center and fill every level of your being, every level of your awareness. And with your next exhale, moving that sacred symbol up through the central vertical channel, out the top of your head, and actually to 36 inches, 3 feet above your head. And imagining the light of 10,000 suns, divine consciousness itself. And this sacred symbol carries with it the ability to embody into three-dimensional time and space the highest levels of consciousness. It's the gift it brings to this light of 10,000 suns, and allowing the code to become saturated with this light. And with a breath, breathing in the sacred symbol down through the top of your head, down through the central vertical channel to your heart, bringing that light of 10,000 suns. And where the light of the Divine Father and the light of the Divine Mother through the earth herself fuse together, illuminating every cell in your body, every level of your awareness, all 15 dimensions of consciousness, all 5 levels of the harmonic universes, every cell of your body, every particle and particle and atom of your being, illuminated with light. And now just drawing your attention to the root chakra, the sacrum, the tailbone, that chakra that affects the whole pelvic bowl there. It is commanded in the name of divine love that this sacred symbol and this sacred breath be used to clear, for everyone listening to my voice, any twisted energy patterns, any karmic imprints, any negative patterns at all associated with fear, survival, activating those energies now so that they may be cleared permanently from every level of awareness, every level of being. Just sensing the karmic imprint spinning off, clearing from your light body. It's commanded in the name of divine love that all karmic imprints found here in the root chakra be activated. That all frozen light patterns be illuminated and returned to golden liquid light in the ocean of unconditional love, where they are repurposed in service to the highest universal healing. All karmic issues around safety and security, all the systems of structures, money and financial abundance, all blocks and barriers stored as twisted energy fragments in this energy center be completely cleared at every level of awareness, every level of being. first phase of this clearing is just now going quantum, knowing that it can take up to 3 days. This root chakra, this energy center, will continue to clear for up to 3 days to even a week. So you might just really pay attention to your dreams this evening, sensations that you notice, any particular shifts or changes around safety and security, work, education, the structures that you have in place, your physical home itself, your relationship to this, any changes. All right. So we're wrapping it up here. You guys have been just great. Thank you. So mastering your mindset, mastering your choices, and mastering your energy. What would it be like to be completely clear at all 7 of your embodied chakras, and to be able to clear, to develop the skills to clear your energy field like this with intention and breath and a sacred symbol, and just to systematically work through this. So again, the benefits of working with these 4 universal laws, that with the law of cause and effect, when you're making your choices in align with your most enlightening self, you become karma free. And as you clear more and more layers of these imprints in your light body, using the law of mind, you really are able to connect to an unshakable experience of peace, of infinite, delicious stillness, silence, and emptiness. With the law of love, you actually embody unconditional love in your bones, in your breath, in your gestures, so that all your choices are in alignment with the highest love of the universe. And the law of will, the law of free will, you are making all of your choices in line with the universal laws, in line with your universal self. And when you are embodying your most enlightening self and living with the universal laws in line with your higher self, the odds are always in your favor, and you do have the advantage. I like to think of it as the most fair vantage. And you live that little Irish proverb of the road always rising up to meet you. You've always got the wind of consciousness filling your sails, moving you to in manifesting and embodying your highest intentions. Beautiful way. And so just, to ask those questions that we started the program with, what would it be like to live in unshakable joy, awe, and wonder every moment of the day as life continues to surprise you and delight you, as it meets you moment to moment? And what would it be like to manifest your highest intentions with elegance, speed, and ease? So that's it for our presentation this evening. Any questions that you have about the healing and clearing experience we just did, anything that we've talked about this evening, it's your opportunity to enter that into the chat. And I'll take as much time as we want to answer questions. For those of you that are interested, I do have an invitation for you. If you want to go deeper into this work with me in manifesting your most embodied enlightened self, in harmonizing the laws, I'm happy to do it. But first I want to answer any questions that you have, particularly questions around the sacred symbol we use, of using the breath, of clearing the energy centers there. So please enter those into the chat box. Or if you just want to share your experience of what you sensed, what you felt, what you noticed. All right. Well, some people are very kindly saying thank you, thank you, thank you so much. So that's beautiful. So if any questions come in, I will answer them, and I'm going to go ahead and share the invitation with you then. So that's it for the free training. And now a few words from our sponsor. Um, so if you would like to go deeper into this work and working with the universal laws and really clearing your spiritual anatomy, I'm offering a 4-week program called Rainbow Light Body Repair. This is level 1, and it will be extraordinary. So this program is for you if you are ready to raise your frequency, become aware of who you really are, and you are truly ready to heal the blocks that keep you from your spiritual connection, from the deep love and intimacy that you want in your closest relationships, the healthiest, most vital body and life that you can. And for those of you that are really entrepreneurs and connecting your work, doing meaning with work, and that's not just for entrepreneurs. I know a number of people that I work with work for 501c3s. They work for foundations that do very meaningful work. But you really want to connect your work with meaning and creating a life of financial freedom. If you're ready to connect to your own divine source of energy, love, and wisdom, ready to take on the responsibility that comes with the awareness of the power of these universal laws, and if you're ready to have the maximum impact your soul wants you to have. This program is not for people who really don't want to help themselves. They just want to sit back and watch and let somebody else do the heavy lifting. This is not a program for you. Or when things get tough, you go unconscious. You go back into the matrix. This is about being willing to connect to the sensations in your body and whatever has been stored in your spiritual anatomy, in your mind, in your heart, in your body, and be present to it as it comes up and out in divine healing. This is not for people who prefer a spiritual bypass. You know, there's a whole lot of people who want to ascend to these higher, subtler dimensions of the spiritual world, so that they can actually avoid this reality. They can avoid this body. They can avoid this life. And I'm here to tell you that when you start disowning the body and this physical life and this physical world, you're only setting yourself up for big trouble. So by actually embodying this life and these higher states of universal law and consciousness into our bones, it actually connects you to the joys and challenges and the ability to hold the pain and suffering in your own life, but particularly in the people around you in a way that is so much more skillful and compassionate and conscious. And you have the allies of these universal laws to support you. So one thing that we're going to do is going to happen for you in this Rainbow Light Body Repair is, one, we're going to repair all the tears, the holes, close all the portals, close all the gaps in your spiritual anatomy, in your entire auric field. We're going to clear the priority negative programs at all 7 of your embodied chakras. We're going to start to clear the priority karmic imprints that are stored in your spiritual anatomy. We're going to clear the crystal seals that keep the energy sort of stuck in your body. And some of those are natural and some are unnatural. So let me give you an example. If you're familiar with Kundalini energy, in the yogic tradition, they talk about the 2 currents of energy, the yin and the yang, that are dormant at the sacral bone. And as a person begins to awaken consciousness, that energy begins to rise. Well, there are 2 crystal seals at each side of the spine that keeps that Kundalini energy dormant. And then there is another set of crystal seals that are just above the solar plexus that keep the energy from moving into the heart. Again, that's one reason why it's so difficult for most people living in the matrix to shift into their heart, because there are these crystalline seals that are there actually as a level of protection. We have to develop the energy and the power and the intention to wake up to actually dissolve those seals. And then there's another set of seals that are between the throat chakra and the third eye. And there's another set of seals that are between the third eye and the crown chakra. And so those are the natural seals that we're going to remove. And then there's some unnatural seals that we'll clear as well. And then once you're at, you've got your spiritual body at a level of integrity, at every week we're going to be activating the dormant power that is now available to you. And then by the end of the fourth week, we'll do a major activation. So here's what we're going to do. Week 1, we're going to start with clearing the priority vows. 2, closing all the funnels, tears, and holes. Week 3, begin clearing the priority karmic blocks. And then week 4, we're going to really focus on restoring the soul facets. The program actually starts tomorrow night. That's Wednesday night, tomorrow, March 16th, and goes the 4 Wednesday nights. That will be 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And just know that the recordings of these things are just as potent as listening and being there live. You don't get quite the community experience. But I've done almost all of my training and certification in this work by watching the recordings. So it's absolutely as potent as available. So there are a couple of bonuses to the training that you get. You get my Wisdom Warrior 8-week training. That's a value of $197, and the exclusive Facebook group for the Rainbow Light Body Repair. And just, the 4-week training, that's actually, I paid $2,000 for this training to go through it myself to get this clearing and healing. And it was worth every essence to me. And so for tonight only, if you're interested in doing this 4-week training with me, then you'll see I've just added a Rainbow Light Body Repair with an add to cart button right there on near your chat. So you should see that. And that's available to you. And so tonight it's a 75% discount. It's $497 for the next 4 weeks. So I'd love to have you join us and just imagine who you're going to be in 4 weeks from tonight. So several people, again, say thank you, thank you. Nicolene asked, were we supposed to be doing that breath work too? No, not necessarily. I use the breath as a way to connect. I was breathing that sacred symbol, not only from my own mind's eye, but to everyone that was listening, as well as to the people who will be listening. So connecting to their higher selves. So not necessarily, Nicolene, but if you're called to, you can certainly breathe too. It's the intention more than anything that helps the energy body to clear. Kay says, wow, thank you. Wonderful. John said, I noticed much more feeling awareness in my physical body during the presentation. Fantastic. If that's all that you take from this is a reminder to come home to your body and the raw sensations of your body, and to step out of your mind and the way that our mind imagines and interprets everything, then it's been a successful evening for me, John. So thank you. Ariel, my dear, dear friend, and one of my teachers early on, and when I was a massage student. Thank you so much, Alan. This has helped to inspire and move me along. Have been feeling stuck. This has helped me to remember who I am. Blessings to you. You are doing such great work in the world. Well, thank you, Ariel. It's a wonder to hear that from you. I really appreciate it. And John says, will there be a next offering? It's too fast for me to jump into it immediately. Um, what I know is there'll be a whole series of these programs, John. This is level one. This is the important place to start. And there's a lot of other work that can be done, but making sure that all the tears and the holes and the portals and the funnels are completely closed, and clearing these twisted energy patterns, these vows from each of the 7 chakras is really, really important. I'm not sure when this will be offered again, to be honest with you, but then there'll be 4 other levels from this. So this is sort of the foundational piece of getting it right. And I respect your choice. One of the things I always tell my students, John, is I talk a lot about making choices in line with your most enlightened self or your soul purpose. And when people raise their hand and choose to work with me, I want them to be crystal clear that it is their next right step in line with their higher self, in line with their soul purpose. So if you can't feel that unequivocal, this is the next right step for me, then I encourage you to wait until you feel that kind of certainty from within your heart of hearts and within your soul of souls. So yes, John, you absolutely can phone and talk about it tomorrow. Absolutely. And Janice says, thank you for your great work. You're very welcome, my dear, and thank you for hanging out. We've been here almost 2 hours tonight, so thank you for your attention. So John will check in. If you want to just private message me your phone number there's a way, I think in the chat, you can send it to everybody, or you can just send it to me. That way we can connect. So any other questions or comments about what you're sensing or what you're feeling, anything that you want for the experience? That would be great. I'm happy to hang out here and answer questions, or have you share your experiences. We just did the one clearing in the root chakra, and it seemed like a subtle thing, but I promise you it was no little thing that we did. When you start to clear all those karmic imprints, those vows around safety and security at the root chakra, you begin to work with one of the core sacred wounds that every human being carries. We all come into this world from this vast open space of consciousness. And as the soul anchors into the body of a fetus and a baby, and as we're born into this world, we leave that expansive place of consciousness and we move into this life, 3-dimensional reality. And the wound, the sacred wound we all carry, is this belief that we are separate from all that is. And all of spiritual enlightenment, all of spiritual healing is really about healing that one misguided belief that I am separate from all that is. And so that core sacred wound is stored at the root chakra. And as you begin to clear it, as we just did, your entire energy anatomy is going to rearrange itself. And the choices that you have to make regarding safety and security, they clear from the neural pathways of your brain, for one thing, and you start your choices with a blank slate. Now, we can continue our whole habitual ways of being and start accruing more energy patterns that get stored right in the energy center. So, it wasn't a small thing that we did tonight. We really started to heal that sacred wound and reconnect you at the essential level of the sacrum, the root of power at the base of your spine. So, I congratulate you for that, and really applaud yourself for the big work that we did. So, okay, great. I see several people have entered their phone numbers here. That's great. It'll be afternoon Texas time tomorrow when I call, but that would be great. So, any other comments, any other questions? Would love to have you in the Rainbow Light Body Repair. You can click the button to the right and join this program. It'll be fantastic. And just imagine, if you feel good right now, who will you be in 4 weeks from tomorrow night after we've done healing of layers and layers and clearing and clearing? So, all right. Well, that's what I have for you this evening, everybody. If there are no more comments, no more questions, I just, thank you so much. It's 2 hours, right up on the hour here. So thank you for your presence, your time, your attention, your enthusiasm, your support, your commitment to your own spiritual healing, to embodying your own most enlightening self, and to learning to work with these universal laws. So it's really a privilege and pleasure to be with you and to be of service to you, and to walk on the way a bit with you. So thank you. I really appreciate you. And until we dance again. I love you too, L'Oreal. And I'm glad you enjoyed the power of the clearing.